Warriors fans, I need you to remember exactly where this fan base was standing 72 hours ago. LeBron James chose Philadelphia, Golden State missed, and in the immediate aftermath, Draymond Green, who had opted out of a $27.6 million player option specifically to help create the flexibility for that LeBron pursuit, agreed to come back on a one-year $27.7 million deal instead, according to Rich Paul's own confirmation to Shams. That was the story. The LeBron chase collapsed, and Golden State's big consolation move was simply re-signing the player they already had. That was where this was left. And then at 2:38 this afternoon on a live First Take Now cut-in, Shams Charania delivered a follow-up that this entire fan base was not remotely expecting. Demar Derozan is signing with the Golden State Warriors. Before you scroll off, I'm telling you right now, by the end of this video, I'm going to tell you the specific mechanism Shams described for how Golden State, already operating under hard cap restrictions, found a way to fit Derozan onto the roster at all. I'm also going to tell you what Draymond Green posted from his own personal account 17 minutes later, a specific pointed reaction to a teammate he has publicly respected for years, that has confirmed exactly how the veteran leadership in that locker room feels about this addition. Stay with me. Do not click off. Here's how it went down. Molly Karam is running First Take Now, discussing the fallout of the Draymond re-signing, when the control room clearly detonates in her ear. She stops. We're going to Shams right now. We have breaking news. And they cut. Shams delivers, and this is the direct transcript. I want to be precise about how this actually happened, because on the surface it looks improbable given Golden State's hard cap situation. My understanding is that once Draymond agreed to return on a one-year deal, rather than the multi-year structure some had speculated, it actually created a very specific, very narrow window of minimum salary flexibility that the front office moved on immediately. Mike Dunleavy Jr. reached out to Derozan's camp within 48 hours of the Draymond deal being finalized. Derozan, according to sources close to the situation, had genuinely been torn among his 4 publicly reported suitors, none of which felt like a clear-cut, obvious best fit. Golden State's pitch was specific, a real role as the 6th man, running the second unit with legitimate shot creation next to a supporting cast that could space the floor around him in ways his previous situation in Sacramento never allowed. This is a minimum salary agreement. It is finalized. It will be formally announced this week, read that back. A very specific, very narrow window of minimum salary flexibility created directly by the structure of Draymond's own contract. That is an extremely precise capology detail tying one transaction's exact structure to enabling a completely separate transaction days later. That is not something a reporter improvises. That comes from someone who has actually traced the cap mechanics through the building. And 17 minutes later, and as I promised, Draymond Green posted from his personal account, and this one carries real weight given his history. Demar, man, I've said for years he's one of the most underrated pure scorers of this generation. Bringing that mid-range mastery to run our second unit is going to be a problem for people. Welcome to the family, bro. Read that back. Not a generic welcome. A specific detailed basketball compliment, referencing years of prior public comments Draymond has genuinely made about Derozan's scoring ability on various media appearances and podcasts over the years. That is a veteran leader who has clearly respected this specific player's game for a long time, publicly affirming the fit the moment it becomes real. That is the exact kind of locker room cosign that tells you the internal reaction inside the building matches the external excitement. Now, the whiplash, because I know exactly what you're thinking. Golden State just missed on LeBron. They're hard capped. Curry is 38. Why would Derozan pick a team in this exact position over 4 other reported suitors who offered clearer paths to consistent minutes? And here's the honest answer, and it requires understanding exactly what Derozan's actual priority is at this stage of his career. Not money, not raw playing time, but genuine championship equity, which is precisely what his camp has been telegraphing publicly for weeks, with reports indicating he would consider a minimum deal specifically to chase a real title. And of Derozan's 4 previously reported suitors, exactly 0 of them entered this summer as a more credible championship contender than the Golden State Warriors, even in their post-LeBron miss form. Miami and Cleveland are both still figuring out their ceiling after their own LeBron misses. Washington is openly rebuilding. Denver has its own complications. Golden State, by contrast, still has Steph Curry, still has Draymond Green, still has a genuine core that made a deep playoff run recently and remains, on paper, one of the most credible title threats in the entire Western Conference. Stay with me. Because once you understand the specific tactical role Derozan is walking into, this stops looking like a fallback and starts looking like the single cleanest fit of all 5 options he actually had. 3 reasons Shams was this confident. Reason 3 is where the reveal lands. Reason number 1. Golden State's single biggest issue in recent postseasons has not been star power. It has been second unit scoring collapse. When Curry sits, this roster has repeatedly gone through stretches of complete offensive stagnation, unable to generate any reliable half-court offense without their franchise engine on the floor. DeMar DeRozan, even at 36, remains one of the most reliable bucket getters in the league, specifically in exactly those situations: isolation, mid-range, self-created offense that does not require a system or a specific set to function. Running the second unit with DeRozan as the primary scoring option solves, in one signing, the single most persistent structural problem this roster has had for multiple postseasons running. Reason number 2. And this is the specific tactical detail about why Steve Kerr's staff is reportedly thrilled about the fit. DeRozan's game, unlike a traditional modern spacer, thrives specifically against second unit bench-heavy defenses. Exactly the matchups he'll be facing running Golden State's second group. His craft, his footwork, his ability to get to his spots against defenders who are not the opponent's best individual defenders is precisely suited to exploiting bench units, which is exactly the role Kerr needs filled, given how often Golden State's own bench has struggled to generate offense independently in recent years. And before I get to reason 3, because reason 3 is the mechanism Shams described connecting the Draymond deal to this one, talk to me in the comments. Warriors fans, real question. Does adding DeRozan on a minimum deal fully restore your confidence in this roster after missing on LeBron? Or do you still think the ceiling is capped without a bigger addition? I think Dub Nation is going to have a genuinely interesting debate about whether this is enough, and I want to read it. Go. Reason number 3, the mechanism. Ready? A very specific, very narrow window of minimum salary flexibility created by the exact structure of Draymond's one-year deal. Read that back. This is genuinely elegant capology, and here's why it matters. Had Draymond signed a longer-term, higher guaranteed deal, Golden State's hard cap number would have been locked in differently, potentially eliminating the minimum salary slot Dunleavy used to add DeRozan entirely. The one-year structure of Draymond's own return, reported independently by Shams just days earlier, it is precisely what created the room to add a second veteran on a minimum deal without pushing the roster over the second apron. That is not 2 unrelated transactions happening to occur in the same week. That is one transaction's specific structure mechanically enabling the next one, and only someone tracking the actual cap sheet in real time would be able to report that connection accurately. Stop. Rewind. When an insider explains not just what happened, but precisely why the previous domino made the next one mechanically possible, that is not speculation. That is someone who has been on the phone with the actual capologists building this roster in real time. Now, the skeptic, Stephen A. Smith, still processing the Draymond news from days earlier, pivoted hard. You just watched LeBron pick Philadelphia over you, and your response is DeMar DeRozan on a minimum deal? Curry is 38. Draymond is 36. Now you're adding another 36-year-old who doesn't even shoot threes? This is not a championship roster. This is a retirement home with a really good point guard. And listen, Stephen A's age concern about the roster's core is legitimate and worth taking seriously. Curry, Draymond, and now DeRozan all being on the older end of the roster is a genuine structural pattern, not a coincidence, and it does raise real questions about depth and durability across an 82-game season plus a playoff run, but here's the counter, and it's about role rather than raw age. DeRozan is not being asked to be a foundational piece carrying heavy minutes every single night. He is walking into a specific, defined sixth-man role running a second unit, which is a far more sustainable workload for a 36-year-old than a full-time starting role would be. Golden State is not betting on DeRozan to be the same player he was 5 years ago across 40 minutes a night. They are betting on him being exactly what he still is, an elite bucket getter in a controlled 20-minute role specifically designed to maximize his remaining strengths while minimizing exposure to his physical limitations. Stephen A. is evaluating him as a full-time starter. Kerr and Dunleavy are deploying him as a specialized weapon. Here's the part of the story that has genuine texture to it. Demar Derozan and Draymond Green have a real, well-documented mutual respect that goes back years, including public comments both players have made about each other's games and competitive mentality on various media platforms. This is not two strangers being thrown together by a transaction. This is two veteran competitors who have publicly admired each other from a distance for years, now sharing a locker room, with Draymond immediately, publicly, enthusiastically vouching for him within minutes of the news breaking. That kind of pre-existing mutual respect is exactly the foundation that makes a late career role transition succeed, rather than create friction, but I owe you the honest risk. Golden State's roster now features 3 significant rotation pieces all north of 35 years old, and no matter how well managed the minutes are, an 82-game season plus a deep playoff run puts real cumulative physical stress on aging bodies. If even one of Curry, Draymond, or Derozan suffers a significant injury at the wrong moment, this roster's margin for error shrinks dramatically. That risk is real, and it compounds with every additional veteran added to an already aging core. So let me bring it home. DeMar DeRozan to the Warriors matters because he specifically solves the persistent second unit scoring collapse this roster has struggled with in recent postseasons, because his isolation scoring game is precisely suited to exploiting bench-heavy matchups, and because Shams tracing the exact cap mechanism connecting Draymond's contract structure to this signing is the kind of technical detail that only comes from real sourcing inside the building. Draymond Green's immediate, specific, detailed public endorsement is the receipt. Now here's what I'm watching next, and this is the next video, so hit subscribe. If DeRozan lands in the Bay, the very next question is exactly how Kerr structures the second unit rotation around him, and whether this fully closes the door on any further additions given the hard cap restrictions now in play. I've got a read on it that will surprise you. For now, comments, likes, subscribe, Dub Nation. LeBron said no. Draymond came back, and now the second unit just got a whole lot scarier. Wild summer.